Pink Bees, Barrel House, Boogie Woogie, and the Blues. This is your temporary chairman, Dr. Gino Back Again Hamilton, just in case some of you recognize the body but can't place the voice. At the last minute, Dr. McCarthy found he couldn't be with us tonight. More about that later. As usual, our conductors are Maestro Paul Lavalle, who became a swinger after his long hair got caught in the ringer, and Dr. Henry Hot Lips Levine, whose music has just been named national favorite in a poll of the student body at Tobacco Road Normal. Our vocalist is the brilliant young Mademoiselle Diane Courtney, the tropical worsted coloratura. And as guest intermission commentator, Dr. Alan Lace Knickers Prescott. As special guest instrumentalist, the one and only Dr. Arturo Tatum. But the house lights are going down, and Dr. Levine is about to conduct as the overture the Irish folk frolic Kerry Dance. This is the work for which Dr. Levine discards his baton and conducts with a shillelagh. The doctor is on the podium now, a large green shamrock behind one ear. Added to his red nose, he looks like a traffic signal. Kerry Dance. We're sure you're all wondering what happened to your new chairman, Dr. Giacomo McCarthy. We just found out ourselves when our vice president in charge of the birds rushed up and handed us a pigeongram. You see, we use carrier pigeons instead of telegrams because we grow our own corn. Well, it seems Dr. Giacomo, being a follower of the horses, was assigned to cover a horse race this afternoon, and he placed a small risk on one of the fleet-footed steeds. As he says in his message, quote, "If it takes all summer, I'll wait till the dog comes in," unquote. Since Dr. McCarthy is now out at the Saratoga track with the other railbirds, Mademoiselle Diane Courtney has chosen an appropriate vocal tribute. We hear her duplex box stall arrangement of Listen to the Mockingbird.
I'm dreaming now of Hallie, sweet Hallie, sweet Hallie. I'm dreaming now of Hallie, for the thought of her is one that never dies. How well I remember, 'twas September, yes, in the mild September, and the mockingbird was singing far and wide. Listen to the mockingbird, hear that bird, he's mocking all the time. Woo, hear that bird, that mockingbird, he's singing where the willows wave. Ooh, 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 all the time.
We are always very happy when Maestro Paul Lavalle writes a program note to one of his own works. His brilliant literary style is reminiscent of an essay by Walter Pater, a polished criticism by Hoenecker, or a lyric mood by Maxie Rosenblum. Here is what Maestro Lavalle has written of the next selection. The work opens with an exposition of the melody proper. Then comes a delicate ostinato boogie, with all the left-handed men in the group playing 8 beats to the bar. From then on, anything can happen, as that is as far as we rehearsed it. Maestro Paul Lavalle's woodwind treatment of Joshua fit the Battle of Jericho. We have now reached the intermission in tonight's concert by the Chamber Music Society of Lower Basin Street. Incidentally, I noticed that Dr. Arturo Tatum has finally managed to get his own special piano up onto our stage. But right now, as our guest commentator, we are privileged to have with us Dr. Alan Wifesaver Prescott, one of the rare occasions when we present a noted musicologist who talks on the serious side. Correction, Dr. Prescott says it's on the alkaline side. Dr. Prescott.
Hello, girls. Do you kick it around? Are you hep? Do you jive? Well, why not? Come on, what's the idea of letting the boys run off with the honor when it comes to busting a vest or sending the joint jumping? My appearance on Lower Basin Street is to call forth the Barbara Fritchies of swing to blow their old gray tops and take their place beside the men, or in back of them, to push them in the groove, as the case may be. Take little Mildred. You take little Mildred, you're her mother. Take little Mildred and her violin. Are you going to keep her sawing away at humoresque while her mother can't even hit a hot lick? Do you think that little Ella will ever get a fella if her mother can't bust a vest? Who will rustle Carrie's bustle if her ma can't be sent? Don't stand back, girls, and let the family turn into scat cats while you don't even recognize the purr of a kitten from the ponderous plunge of a downbeat. You got the stuff it takes. Get in there and hit it. What better training for the violin than the low, steady swing of a hot iron? Anyone who can aim a hot iron and knock off a button can make a bullseye with a violin bow without missing a beat. Don't let him tell you, girls, that you'll never make the brass section. Who is it that cools the morning coffee when everyone else is afraid to touch it? Who is it that can start little Emigard running for home from a distance of 7 blocks? It's not me. Who is it that can blow a burning pork chop out when the rest of the family runs for the kitchen? It's you. Any girl who has to play a tune on a toaster 7 mornings a week has enough breath to toot a tiresome little tin horn. Reading music should give you girls practically no trouble at all. Any girl who's had to read Aunt Carrie's recipes in the original, when she dots the P in tablespoonful and crosses her I's, won't be stopped by a silly score that calls for an 8-bar rest while the rest of the band is waiting to gel. Don't let any of the fellows tell you about cellos, either. There's a nasty theory that the boys have been building up that girls just aren't dressed for cello playing. Don't let that stop you from becoming just as unaccomplished a musician as the rest of them. With the great experience that all of you've had getting out of the way of a vacuum cleaner, even if you can't straddle the cello, you can certainly ride it side saddle. When the boys tell you that you can't dig, when they laugh as you sit down to jive, when they tell you that hepcats are feline but not female, toss your curls and swing it, girls, because there isn't one of them who could hurdle a girdle. Mrs. Housewife, I hope there's nothing burning.
Only you are burning, Doctor. While you were talking, Dr. Levine has been busy giving you a hot foot.
Ah!
Thank you, Dr. Prescott. Dr. Henry Hotlips Levine has now programmed the contemporary classic Daddy, which, incidentally, the good doctor has not been married long enough to be. In fact, it has been reliably reported that on Father's Day, our famous conductor just sat at home and sulked. But be that as it may, he now brings us a Dixieland version of the work in which, for the first time anywhere, no member of the orchestra gets up and makes a fool of himself by trying to sing. Instead, almost all 8 of the musicians are featured in solo choruses. At least all of them are featured who demanded either a solo spot or a raise. Here is Dr. Henry Hotlips Levine's Dixieland treatment of the lilting lullaby for babies over 18, Daddy. Last week, as you all remember, Mademoiselle Diane Courtney and the Society had as guests in the studio some 300 young midshipmen from the United States Naval Reserve training ship, the USS Prairie State. Well, the midshipmen applauded Mademoiselle Courtney so long and so hard that you listeners were unable to hear one statement, which we think was of paramount importance to the country at large. And we repeat it now. Quote, "When these young midshipmen become trained as fighting men, perhaps they will go out and bring us in a sponsor." Unquote. Mademoiselle Diane Courtney now sings Professor Ted Steele's new work, Hometown Blues, and she dedicates it, hopefully, to members of the NBC sales department. Hometown Blues.
Hometown blues, there's no tomorrow with hometown blues. There's only sorrow and endless woe. I want to go back home. I can see those friendly faces that smiled at me, those lovely places I used to know. I want to go back home. Creeks that you can fish in, wells to make a wish in, lazy evenings when days are done. No one ever hurries, no one ever worries. Any time is just the time for dreaming. Hometown blues, no time to slow down for hometown news. I feel so low down, I know it's so. I want to go back home. You can fish in, wells to make a wish in, when your day is done. No one hurries, no one worries. It's always time for dreaming. Hometown blues, no time to slow down for hometown news. I feel so low down, I know it's so. I want to go back to my home.
When Dr. Arturo Tatum gives out with his best pianistic endeavor at Manhattan's popular Cafe Society downtown, he often quite literally brings down the house. As Professor Barney Josephson, the entrepreneur of Cafe Society downtown, put it somewhat grumpily, Tatum is good but expensive. I have to hire a large force of carpenters to keep putting the joint back up again, ungrump. Seriously, no less an authority than Dr. Frank Black has praised Tatum as one of the greatest jazz pianists this country has ever produced. We are now to hear Dr. Tatum in two keyboard moods, A, concert, and B, classical jump. First, his concert variations on Dvorak's Humoresque. Dr. Art Tatum is now joined by a small group composed of Professors Alfred Lewis Evans on clarinet, Harry Sneezy Stitman on drums, Frank Jazz Garisto on guitar, and Harry Grumpy Patent on double doghouse. The result is a 4-alarm fugue with no insurance. Georgia on my mind. Thank you, Dr. Art Tatum, and we do hope you will visit us again soon. As you all know, fellow members, Maestro Paul Lavalle has won high national honors for his work in illustrating the indigenous music of our land. In fact, with all his high honors and a nickel, he can take the subway home instead of walking. He illustrates an American musical idiom now by conducting his woodwinds in the programmatic trance Charleston Alley. The Charleston beat, of course, consists of a dotted quarter note, an eighth tied to a quarter note, and then an eighth rest, leaving one orphan eighth note for anybody who claims it before Labor Day. Described vocally, the single Charleston beat goes. The somewhat more complicated double Charleston beat goes. The Charleston beat is all clear, yes. Maestro Paul Lavalle now conducts his woodwind version of Charleston Alley, a work doubly significant for the fact that nowhere in it do we hear a Charleston beat. And so, fellow members, we have kicked out the streetlights on another one. This being positively my farewell appearance, we feel certain that next week at this same time, your permanent chairman, Dr. Giacomo McCarthy, will have finished with his horse race and will be here with you. That is, he will be if we can get him out of hock in time. All our regulars will be present, and our special guests will be the editor of Swing Magazine and the world-famed chamber trio of ocarinas, the Three Potato Bugs. It has been a pleasure to substitute for Dr. McCarthy, and we really hate to say once more goodbye. Your chairman of the Chamber Music Society of Lower Basin Street has been Dr. Gino Back Again Hamilton, tonight making his second farewell appearance in 2 weeks. This is the Blue Network of the National Broadcasting Company, RCA Building, Radio City, New York.